What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video we are going to be doing a clutch on Ash's S14 from JDMNZ. So yeah, shout out to Ash, thank you for letting me do this and letting me film it. So I'm going to bring you guys along and yeah, be stoked. This is my dog, by the way, it's named Louie. And we got Shyla and we got Buddy. But yeah, let's get in the garage and we'll crack into it. So we're out in the garage now. Here we have Ash's S14. For those of you who don't know, this is the Facebook page and Instagram and all that he runs. He hosts lots of events in Auckland to do with obviously JDM cars. So shout out Ash for doing that because it's a lot of work organising events and stuff like that. But he came to me because he's had an issue with his throw-out bearing, so it makes a bit of noise, sounds horrible, sometimes it's a bit hard getting in and out of gears. So freshly skimmed flywheel, new pressure plate, new throw-out bearing, new spigot bush, and obviously a new clutch plate. So we're going to be installing that today on his car. First things first, obviously you want to jack the car up and take off, you know, drive shaft, bell housing bolt, starter motor, you know, all those kind of things. We'll go through all that, but I'm going to start off up here, take off the shifter boot, surround and all that kind of thing, get it out of the way before I put the car up in the air. So I'll do that now. So hopefully this should just unscrew. There we go. It's got a bit of an adapter. D1 spec. I hope you skid this, Ash. Then we've got this. Like so. And then you can leave this on because this will just fall through. You don't need to undo this rubber boot as well. Just want to get rid of these things just because you don't want the gearbox to move back and forward and smashes uncracked surround, which is quite hard to find on an S14, so don't want to break any of that. So I'm just going to put the car up on axle stands now, get it as high as I possibly can because obviously we've got to drop the gearbox out to do this clutch job. So yeah, I'm just going to make a bit of room, get the car up on stands, and then I'll grab you guys back out. So I've got the car up in the air now, you can see here. So I've got it basically as high as I possibly can on jack stands. Always good just when you get it up, just to give it a good wriggle test, make sure she's not going to fall off because the last thing you want is to be down there and this big heavy bitch falls on top of you. So wriggle test. So now that I've got the car up in the air, I'm just going to give you guys a bit of a rundown on exactly how I'm going to do this. So obviously when you take the gearbox out to replace the clutch, you guys should know that. So you need to disconnect everything off there. So there's going to be probably a speedo drive into the gearbox, reverse sensor, or like a reverse switch. So when you select reverse gear, it turns the lights on. Drive shaft, cross member, and then there's going to be starter motor and obviously bolts to the block or bell housing. I don't know if you guys can see. Pull it out of the way, but just down in there, I need to position my torch better. Just there you can see there's a bolt, it's sort of out of focus, but where that hose clip is, down the bottom there, that's a bell housing bolt. So there's one there, and there's also, if this thing will focus, another one there where you can see the hard lines are, and then the rest of them are really easy to get to there on the bottom. Another thing that I've done is I've drawn on a piece of cardboard here. This is basically my bell housing. As I take a bolt out, I'm just going to stick it through a hole here, kind of going around in clockwise like a clock. So there's 12 bolts, you know, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all the way around, and that's basically just so you know exactly where the bolt came out of, so you can put it back in there. One more thing that I have done, and I'll show you quickly as well, is I got a white marker pen, and squeeze under here. Right, there you guys will see that I've marked the drive shaft. I've done that because these things are balanced, so if you don't mark it and you don't put it in directly the right spot, you will lose the balance of the drive shaft, and when you're driving down the road you'll get a real funny vibration. That's definitely not ideal, so mark your drive shaft. So we're just under the car now. I'm just going to show you some of the stuff you need to take off. So obviously all the bolts, all the lines. Here's the reverse switch by the looks that I was talking about. Obviously got to take your slave cylinder off. So if you don't know how these work, essentially you push the pedal, there's a cylinder up the top on the firewall. It hydraulics the hydraulic fluid in here, pushes out there's a little pin behind this, it pushes this out, that disengages the clutch, or engages the clutch if you take your foot off it. Here's your cross member. But yeah, starter motor's on this side, this is on the slave cylinder's on the side, and then just the rest of the bolts around up here to the top. And as I was saying, just when we take them out, we're just going to put them in the piece of cardboard on the ground over there, just so we know where they go back in. So I'm going to take all these off now, and then yeah, start taking this out. What's up everyone, so welcome back. I have pulled all the barrel housing bolts bar 2. I've left 2 on the top of the gearbox just while I undo the rest of the stuff, so like the cross member and all that, just because I don't want to put too much stress on the clutch, flywheel, all that's already in there, even though it is stuffed. But as you can see, I'll show you a few things here. I took this breather hose off that goes from the crankcase, so crankcase ventilation, into the rocker cover here, just to get a bit more room. We can see that bell housing bolt that I'm touching there is loose. Same with the one on the other side at the top there. All the rest of them out. There's no slave and there's no starter motor attached, so basically all that's holding this in now is the gearbox cross member. Drive shaft sitting in there just so it doesn't leak. And yeah, obviously those 2 bolts on the dowel, so I'm going to get my jack under there now, start dropping the cross member and get it ready to pull out. Then over here, just quickly I'll show you, I was talking about before, so these are my 2 top bolts, these 2 dashes. Here's all my bolts going around clockwise. I wrote here starter, so there's 2 of the ones that hold up the starter, and yeah, that's basically everything. So I'm going to get the gearbox ready to come out now, and then I'll bring you guys back out when it's ready. So with the help of my old man, managed to get the gearbox out. It's pretty hard to pull it by yourself, so I don't recommend trying, but there she is. I had to take the shifter plate off because the shifter was getting stuck. Shifter was getting stuck on the tunnel here. But yeah, so now that's all out. I'm gonna pull the clutch plate and then the pressure plate, sorry, then the clutch plate, then the flywheel, and we're gonna have a look at the rear main seal because I think it might be leaking, so might need to give Ash a ring and let him know about that. But pull under here. You can see there we have our clutch assembly. So yeah, just take those bolts off around the outside and pull the flywheel off, and we'll have a look at what we've got. So, clutch plate, pressure plate, clutch plate are up. So, taking our flywheel bolts out now. So I just got the flywheel and clutch assembly all out, as you can see here. This clutch plate isn't actually that bad in terms of it's not worn down to the rivets yet, which is normally when you get the slipping. But if you can notice there in the middle, for whatever reason, this clutch has been clipping the flywheel bolts. Also, the ends of the fingers here are worn out. So I think our problem is the throwout bearing seizing, or not moving in and out properly, or not spinning or something, which is causing this clutch to stick in gears. You have to double clutch a couple times to get it to come in and out of some of the gears, and it makes a horrible noise. So yeah, we'll get rid of this XCD and put in the other one. Trying to work out why the clutch plate was hitting the flywheel bolts, and we've decided to measure the depth from the surface where the clutch plate touches to where the flywheel bolts will sit. This one is out of my old 180SX, so this is the first time it's been skimmed, and it's reading about 9 mil. Then when we take our vernier gauge,
it's actually 8.5.
8.5. So when we take our vernier gauge over to the one that's come out of the car, we're getting 7.
6 3/4.
6 3/4, 7. So this one's about 1.5 mil shorter in height, which is probably why
Catching that.
our flywheel bolts have been catching our clutch plate here. Yeah, so not good. So yeah, you can't, with flywheels, I know everybody says you get them skimmed and stuff like that, but you can only skim them so many times before they throw away for this reason. Because obviously if you wore through the edge of these bolts too much, they would just snap off and you would get a flywheel through the bell housing and probably through the floor of your car, which would not be fun. So yeah, be careful to make sure you check this before you put, or get it skimmed and put a new flywheel in if you need to, before replacing your clutch. So I just decided to pull the other clutch plate, out of the box and just have a look at it quickly before I put it into Ash's car. And just doing a side-by-side comparison. So this is a Clutch Industries one here that I'm pointing at now, and this is an Exceedi one. As you can see, there's a pretty big difference. This doesn't have the center spring assembly on the outside like this one does, see, on both sides. So these are actually sticking out quite a lot further than these springs here are, which also is going to cause a lot of problems, obviously, as you've seen, which is probably why this has happened. So yeah, probably be best to check that as well when you put a clutch in, because you don't want that to happen to your car. Another good thing to do before you put everything back together is clean your flywheel bolts. So these bolts here, just got them in the vise. Obviously don't over tighten it because you don't want to hit the edge, and just with your wire brush on a drill, just go up and down like that. Do all these bolts so they're nice and clean for when you put fresh Loctite on there, and put them back in. So yeah, I'm just going to clean all these up now, put my flywheel in, Loctite all these, and then torque them to spec with my torque wrench, and yeah, then the clutch plate and the pressure plate will be ready to go back on. So here we've got our new skimmed flywheel. So this one is the one that's out of my 180SX. It's a lot deeper to the flywheel bolt, so we shouldn't have this problem. And same with our new clutch plate, slightly different, so it's not going to hit. So I've cleaned all the threads up on this with that wire wheel on the drill. Got my Loctite. I'm gonna start them with my gun, and then I'm gonna get out my torque wrench and I'm gonna torque them up, and I'll let you know what the torque setting is because I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but I'll Google it and find out, and then yeah, we'll torque them to that setting. So I almost forgot one thing. As you can see here, I've got a pilot bush or spigot bush or pilot bearing or spigot bearing puller. So basically you just set this up here on each side of the crank. There's a little three little prongs that sort of spread out and they grab the bush. Then I'm just using this here, and obviously as I wind this around, it pulls the bush out, which I think you guys can just see there. It's pulling it out of the crank. So got to replace this as well, so pull this one out and put the new one in. Not too much to go. So I'll pull this out and then I'll show you guys how I put the new one. A better view of that spigot bush and the tool that I used, so you can see that it wound out. These little prongs hold the edge, and then as I twist this big knob here, it puts pressure against these two stands and pulls the bush back out. So we'll get our new one of these and pop that into the crank, so it's all ready to go, and then we'll chuck our flywheel on. So here you can see I put my new spigot bush in the centre. I've also gone through, put Loctite on every single one of these, use my gun just to sort of wind them in to the point where they're at home. And now I'm going to go get the torque wrench and torque these up. So according to Mechanic Google, the Silvia forum is saying that you should torque it to 70 foot-pound. Other people are saying to 90, so I've decided to go 90 because it never hurts to go that much, which is about 120 newton meters. So I've got that set here on my torque wrench, so I'm going to put my 40mm socket on there. These things, you basically crank it until the ratchet goes click click, and that's how you know you've reached your torque setting. Definitely make sure you torque your flywheel bolts, because as I was saying, you don't want that to go through your bell housing and then through your floor and cut your legs off or something stupid like that. So yeah, make sure you use one of these. So now we've got our spigot and we need to change our throw-up bearing. So here you can see the old one, here's a new one. We basically just want to press this on here till it's nice and flush, and then that goes on the shaft of our gear. So I've put the new throw-up bearing on the clutch fork, so you can see it in there. New bearing. There's a little bit tricky to get on, but I found the easiest way is to actually pull that out and then push your bearing on, and then put it back in. There's like a spring clip that sits where you can see that dome there, that sits onto like a little like pivot point on the gearbox, so make sure that that is clipped in and your bearing is clipped in properly. I lubed that up a little bit, but not too much because I don't want it to hydraulic, so just a little bit of lube just to make sure that it does slide back and forth freely. But yeah, new bearing. So basically all that's left now is I need to brake clean our two surfaces. So we want to brake clean our flywheel and then our pressure plate here, just to get off any oil like that our finger marks and stuff are going to leave. Align the clutch plate, then put the pressure plate on and do it up to spec, which I think is about 30 Newton meters. So do that up, and then yeah, gearbox is ready to go back on. So we'll see how long that takes. In all honesty, it probably took me like maybe an hour to get all the bolts and everything off, and then maybe another hour to get the gearbox out, just because it was so tight with the extractors, and there was a few things that I didn't do that I should have, like I probably should have taken the shifter out. So I ended up doing that afterwards when it was kind of hanging. Took the whole shifter plate off. So I'm going to put the shifter plate back on and then put the shifter stick itself in afterwards. Gearbox fluid went everywhere, so I caught as much of it as I can in there, and I'm going to filter it and put it back in and top up what I need to. So unfortunately this clutch kit didn't come with an alignment tool. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I've gone ahead and I've made my own Cuzzy Customs one, because you know, Cuzzy Customs around here, we don't fuck around, we know what we're up to. So gone and got a socket, fits snug inside where the spline goes for the gearbox. Then I've got a 3/8 socket, so this is 1/2 inch, this is 3/8 extension I should say. I've got a piece of tape on the end of it. You guys can't see it at the moment, but there's a piece of tape. Oh, hold on, I'll flip it for you. Piece of tape there, and that fits nice and snug in my spigot bush. So now I should be able to put this onto the car, put this into the end of the spigot. This obviously needs to go the other way, but into this again, and then this should hold this basically center while I do up my pressure plate bolts. So my dad actually found the alignment tool, so cheers. This is what I was talking about here, that I made same sort of thing here. So this end here goes into the spigot, and then this here obviously fits inside the clutch plate. It acts as if it was this piece. It's basically this piece of your gearbox, just on a stick, so you can pull it out. So you align this all up, do this pressure plate up, and then yeah, gearbox is ready to go back on. So now you guys can see how that tool works. So holds in the center there. It's holding my clutch plate center with the flywheel, using the spigot, and then we can grab a pressure plate here, put them over the top, and use the locating dowels around the outside, and then obviously all the other holes are for our bolts, which are down there, to go and hold that pressure plate on. And as I said, it's about 24 or 30 Newton meters, so 24 to 30, yeah, so roughly hand tight with your 3/8 spanner, but we'll use a torque wrench again just to make sure that it is correct. And yeah, then our gearbox can go back on. So here I've done all my pressure plate bolts. I left this in the middle. As you can see now, pops straight out, and straight through the center there is the spigot. And we got to put this back in as long as our teeth are lined up. See, slides in and out, super easy. So hopefully now when we go to put our gearbox on, our shaft should slide straight in. So my old man and I managed to get the gearbox back in. I'm just using a couple of bolts at the moment and the jack to hold the bell housing together. And we also used a bottle jack on the front of the motor, and we just tilted this engine back a little bit, just like this. That sort of just made it easier to get the bell housing up behind the motor there. It just gave us a little bit more room. And it's also good to get those two top bolts in, the two 17mm head ones either side there, just to get them back in. So underneath here you can see that's where my jack's situated. Then I've got a couple of bolts just around the outside there, holding this in at the moment. So I've got rid of my bottle jack that was sitting on my blocks of wood. There's all my bell housing bolts, so I'm going to jack this back up now, bang the 4 bolts in either side, and then finish putting all the bell housing bolts in here. What's up? So I've got the gearbox back in now, I've got the cross member bolted up, I've got the drive shaft sitting in there with the bolts loose, and the exhaust is just left to go. So I'll just pull you under. As you guys can see, here's the gearbox sitting in, drive shaft sitting in, the exhaust is just sitting off there. I had to break those bolts off to tilt the motor back because it's welded at the extractors down there. But right now what I want to do is I need to fill the gearbox back up again, so I'm going to grab my old man and we're going to tip oil into there. I saved the oil that came out of the gearbox, so I'm just going to put that back in. It has a filter in there, it should be alright. As I was saying before, if Ash wants to change this later on, more than happy to drain it and fill it again for him properly, but for now, to save a bit of money, we're just going to put this old oil back in. So I'm going to grab my old man, I'm going to tip that in, then I can put my shifter back on, take the gearbox out of gear because it's in gear at the moment, so I can turn my drive shaft and put all my drive shaft bolts back in, put the exhaust on, and then we can start her up and select some gears, make sure she works. So I finally just finished putting everything back together. I did my engine mounts because we loosened them off to jack the motor back. I've done my drive shaft, my exhaust, my slave cylinders on, my starter motor, everything on the inside here. So all the rubber boots, shift knob, select gears. So basically now I just need to put it back on the ground and then start it and make sure that I do get forward and back motion obviously, and that there's no weird noises, and then I'll take it for a drive. I'll bring you guys along on that drive, and yeah, should be ready to go back to Ash. So put it on the ground now and we'll test her out. Clutch stop's all done. Just taking Ash's car for a bit of a test drive now. Seems to go good. Selects every gear fine. Clutch is super soft, so when I get back I might just try bleed the slave. But other than that, the car feels good, so be ready to get back to Ash. So hope you guys found this video helpful. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. So yeah, as you just saw, sorry this is a video after the video, but my camera keeps trying to die, I'm running out of battery. Ash's car in the background there, it's working good. So I hope you guys found that video helpful on how to do a clutch. Again, if you have any questions, just feel free to DM me on Instagram or whatever, drop a comment below. And yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.